Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Kyra and this is my Back to Beauty No Buy year. This year I am concentrating on using my makeup and not buying any. Today I'm using my makeup to update you on my Pan That palette for 2019. This project is in collaboration with the Fantastic Ladies over on Facebook, and the project is called Pan As Old As Time. And in this project we are all attempting to pan a palette that is one of the oldest palettes in our collection. And this is the second oldest palette in my collection, which is the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe palette. So I'm really excited to bring to you this update this month. I did hit pan on an additional shade this month, but overall I feel like I made really good progress on quite a few shades this month. So this month I did hit pan on this shade right here, which is MFEO, or Made for Each Other. And I am not surprised that I hit pan on this shade before Silk Cream, even though I use Silk Cream a lot more than MFEO. I mentioned in videos past that there are quite a few different formulas, as well as a lot of the eyeshadows are pressed differently in this palette. And between the two transition shades here, the MFEO is definitely not as firmly pressed as Silk Cream, which is fine. So I did go ahead and hit pan on that one shade this month, but overall, hopefully you can see that I've made a lot of progress this month. And I have a few shades that I am like a whisper away from hitting pan on. One of them being this shade right here, which is Subtle. When I put my brush into the pan now, I can feel the bottom of the pan. And like I said, you can almost count on this being a pan hit next month. I also feel like I'm getting really close on this shade right here, which is Obsessed, which was one of the shades that I was working on for the month of April. Let's talk about the shades that I specifically had goals on this month. Two of those shades were a complete fail. And the first one is this shade right here, which is called Creamsicle. This is definitely a shade that's very firmly pressed like Silk Cream. Not only that, I just wasn't feeling it this month, which is so odd. I'm really into mustard yellow, and I thought this would be a beautiful shade in creating looks to go with that type of thing. And then the next shade I was working on was this one right here called Pukey, which I maybe used twice this month, and it is like more of a deeper mustardy yellow, if you will. So those two shades were a complete fail this month. And then the shade that I'm really surprised I didn't hit pan on this month is this shade right here called Buns. And I've been enjoying this shade so much. It is what I have in my crease today, and I use this in darn near every single look that I did this month. By way of putting it in the crease and a little bit in the outer V. So this is another one that I predict I will have pan on next month. The other shade that I worked on was this shade right here called Little Lady, and I definitely made a nice dip. This is a very soft peach shade, and I love peach, and I definitely think it was an appropriate choice for a spring month. And it paired really nicely with this shade Buns. And then today I have it layered over a little bit with this shade called Firework. So I feel like I did make good progress on that one. And then the last shade that I worked on this month was, again, this one called Obsessed. And I definitely made good progress. This is another one that I think I could have pan on by the next update. So besides the shades that I was specifically focusing on this month that we just spoke about, there were a few shades that I used the most over the month. And the first one was this green shade right here called Diva. I love this shade. I love green eyeshadow. It was really beautiful.
I keep digging my fingers into the shades. Eek.
But yeah, so this is definitely a beautiful shade. I liked it with some lighter shades layered over the top, which made it seem a little bit softer and a little bit more spring appropriate. I am talking a lot about spring, and that is because overall I'm trying to give spring vibes with the eye looks that I create during spring. Imagine. And then the next shade that I used a little bit more is this shade right here called Jada. This is a matte teal shade, and it was really beautiful under some other shades, specifically under this shade Diva. It just gave a nice lighter, sort of brighter, not so grayed out look to Diva when I layered them together, so I did really enjoy that. And then surprisingly, another shade that I used quite a bit this month was this shade right here called Enchanted. This is a deep dark matte green, and I really like this shade. I did mention in a previous update, I believe it was the last update in March, that I'm not going to attempt to hit pan on these 4 deepest shades. I just don't think it's like realistic for me to think that I'm going to hit pan on these. If I do, fantastic. I absolutely love this green, so there's a good chance I would hit pan on that one. And then this shade, which is a deep dark purple matte called Soda Pop, is another possibility, but I'm not a big fan of this dark brown right here called Central Park or this black called Abyss. We'll see. And then the other shade that I used quite a bit more this month than expected is this shade right here called Hillster. I find that this pairs really beautifully with that shade called Buns. It's almost like the metallic version of Buns. So Buns I put up in the crease and a little bit on the outer V and blended it out. And then I went in with Hillster on the outer V of, or you know, the outer third of the lid, and then went in with my lid shades. So before we get into talking about next month and what you can expect, I want to share with you the looks that I created this month. A lot of them are looks that I created with my Pan That palette as well as my Pan That palette partners, which is a collaboration with my girl Angela from Beauty by Angela. But overall, I did create, how many? 18 looks this month. I feel like that's really, really good, and I hope you enjoy.
First impression, you OPN. We should be closer than friends. If you OPN, engaging you's on my agenda. Request my chariot, get ya. The door's OPN. Take that hot road and hop in. Monarch butterflies, you should open up. I'm trying to put your heart together, found it broken up. Going up in smoke, smoking up. Make sure the children in the house, she's inappropriate. The way she's approaching us, I disassociate. Exfoliate, the renegotiate. She's closing up. Come to visit me, she say that she the loneliest, and it's hard to open up. Open you up like a Pokeball. Open up, tear you out for a Pokeball. Let your emotion waterfall on me. Open up. Open up. Need to deep breathe, heartache complications. Open up. Need to reread our conversation. Got me contemplation over our situation. Open up. You OPN. Hit you on BBM. We should be closer than friends. If you OPN, engaging you's on my agenda. Request my chariot, get ya. The door's OPN. Take that hot road and hop in. Open up, open up. Shut it down like a Macintosh. Open up, open. Cold as ice and Coca-Cola. Open up.
So I hope you enjoyed that clip of all the looks that I created this month. Overall, I did get spring vibes from the looks that I created. I felt like they were all very different and I enjoyed creating every single one of them. I also quickly just wanted to address something that I like to call 50 Shades of Beige. I'm going to put a picture up on the screen for you here. A lot of people's...
Hey, I keep sticking my finger in the damn shadows.
A lot of people will, you know, speak on like all the neutrals and all the browns in this palette, and there are a lot of them, as you will see in the picture. However, I did want to point out that they are all different, and I've had several of you mention that my blending game has been upped over the last couple of months, and I do think some of that is skill, but I actually think most of that is due to the 50 Shades of Beige that are in this palette. I find it really easy to create a really well blended look because there's a gradient of brown or warm neutrals that I'm able to build up ever so slightly by just taking it up or down a shade at a time. So I just wanted to point that out. This palette is still available, you know, if you're interested. And I just wanted to point out that while I agree there is a lot of brown in this palette, they are all different. For May, I am not going to set any shade goals this month. And that is for a couple of reasons. The first of which is that Angela and I, as you would have seen in yesterday's video, Monday, I think, Angela and I are doing a full week of our Pan That palettes. 7 days straight of just using our Pan That palette. It's kind of just a little experiment between the two of us because we've been enjoying our Pan That palette project so much this year, specifically because of our little project within a project, which is the Pan That Palette Partners series, where we take other palettes and pair them with our Pan That palette to keep things fresh, to make our Pan That palette more versatile and things like that. So because I'm going to be using my Pan That palette for those 7 days specifically, I really didn't want to focus in on any shades. I just wanted to focus in on creating 7 somewhat different looks. The second reason is because I'm actually only choosing one palette for my Pan That Palette Partner project for the month of May. I do have some rather larger palettes, and one of those palettes for me is the Revolution, the Emily Edit, the Wants palette. I love this palette. Angela and I recently did palette bingo with this palette, and overall I find this to be a very spring-like palette. Of course, I think this palette is great for any season, but I specifically love this palette for spring, I think. I didn't include this in my capsule makeup collection for spring. It really was just an oversight. So that's part of the reason why, sorry, it's so blown out. It's like really bright outside right now. But that's part of why I wanted to just use this palette with my Pan That palette for the entire month. I will still be doing 12 looks at a minimum with this palette. Every week in the past, I've had a different palette with which I would do 3 looks with. And so I'm still going to create 12 looks out of this palette for you guys. I just wanted to really focus in on this Emily Edit palette because I haven't used it for a long time, and it's very appropriate for spring, and it's a larger palette, so I really want to see what amazing combinations that I can come up with this month, and I'm super excited about it. I cannot wait to see what Angela chooses in her video for her Pan That Palette Partners for the month of May. And that is it. That is my short and sweet update for Pan That Palette for the month of April. I hope you enjoyed seeing the looks as well as my progress, and I hope all of your makeup days are absolutely beautiful Pan That Palette makeup days, and I will see you in my next video soon.
Open up, You OPN, bitch, you won't BBM. We should be closer than friends.